Hello all, welcome to this module. Today we will talk about will and would. Have you ever gotten the words will and would mixed up in a sentence? Basically, this means that we use them with other verbs to talk about things such as possibility, obligation, suggestion, and permission. And English learners often get these two words confused because they're used in very similar situations, but they're not the same. The main difference between will and would is that will is used for real situations and it always signifies the future, whereas would is used for imagined situations in the future or of the past. Of course, this is a very simple explanation. We'll get into the details of that very soon. Now, let's check the usage of will. One is to give information about future. An example sentence is, we'll head home after work. Second one, to talk about what we think or guess will happen. Example sentences, don't lend him your car, he will crash it. Third use is to talk about things that we are ready to do or that we are open to doing without any issue or objections. Example is, I will eat anything, I'm not picky at all. Fourth is to talk about general rules, especially on signs or in codes of conduct or company policies and procedures. For example, smokers will be asked to smoke outside. And the fifth is to give orders or commands. Example, you will tidy up your room. Now the use of would, to talk about things that we expected to happen in the past. For example, the sky was getting cloudy, which meant it would rain. To talk about habits in the past. For example, when we lived in the mountains, we would go on hiking all the time. Now, look at these two sentences. We used to smoke and we would smoke. Which one is grammatically accurate? Or which one sounds more accurate, grammatically? Well, I would say the first sentence is grammatically accurate and it sounds appropriate. Why? Because if we don't clarify that we are talking about the past, it would sound like we are talking about something we might do in the present if we had the opportunity. So, for clarity, it's better to use it this way. Before we quit, we would smoke all the time. Or you could say we used to smoke all the time. Now, talking about will and would with conditionals. So, what are conditionals in English grammar? Sometimes we call them the if clause. They describe the result of something that might happen in the present or future or could have happened in the past but did not. They're all made using different English verb tenses. So, zero conditionals is used to talk about facts and situations which are always true. For example, if you add 1 and 1, you will get 2. So, what is the sentence structure here? Plus present simple. Now, if you look at this sentence, you see that there is neither will nor would. Precisely the point. In this kind of sentences, the sentences with this kind of structure, the structure that's given on the slide, if plus present simple, comma present simple, you shouldn't be using modal verbs. In the first conditional or using the first conditional, we talk about actions or events in the future which are likely to happen. For example, if it rains tomorrow, I will stay at home. So, if plus present simple, will plus infinitive. So, with this kind of sentence structures, the modal verb used here is will and not would. Okay. Now, with the second conditional, we talk about impossible things in the present or unlikely things in the future. For example, if I had a magic wand, I would change some historical events. So, what's the sentence structure here? If plus past simple, would plus infinitive. So, with these kind of sentences, which modal verb is preferred? Would and not will. So, it's better to say if I had a magic wand, I would change some historical facts rather than if I had a magic wand, I will change some historical events. Now, with the third conditional, we talk about things that didn't happen in the past and their imaginary results. For example, if I studied harder, I would have passed the exam. Now, what's the sentence structure? If plus past perfect, would plus past participle. So, with these kinds of sentence constructions, you need to use would and not will. So, I hope you're clear with conditionals and the use of will and would. Now, let's look at the use of modal verbs will and would with modest request and proposals. So, in formal situations, it's better you use would. So, use would to form request and proposals in formal situation. For example, would you please come in? Would you like a cup of coffee? Whereas in informal situation, you could use will. So, you could use will to form request and proposal in an informal setting. For example, will you come in? Will you have a cup of coffee? So, in this, that is in making request and proposals, use of will and would is possible based on the context. Now, talking about reported speech and descriptions of past habits, in both these situations, that is when you're reporting somebody's speech or when you're describing past habits, you should definitely use would and not will. Examples are given here. She told me that she would be here at 8 o'clock. Similarly, when you're describing past habits, when I was young, I would play tennis with my brother. Now, try replacing would with will here in the sentence. It would sound so absurd. When I was young, I will play tennis with my brother. No, that sounds grammatically wrong. So, another thing that you need to note here, which is very important, is that you should use would only with action verbs and not state verbs. So, what are state verbs? There are certain verbs that define your state of being, and an example is live. Live is a state verb. So, in with state verbs, you shouldn't be using would. Instead, you could use used to. So, replace would with used to. An example sentence is given here. When I was young, I would live in an old house. So, because live is a state verb, the sentence is not grammatically accurate. So, the right sentence is when I was young, I used to live in an old house. Now, talking about expressing your liking and preferences for something. Words such as love, hate, prefer, like, and glad are used along with would to describe certain situations. For example, I would be glad to help. I would hate to work out in the morning. I would love to go on a trip to Spain. So, these are all examples of expressing liking and preferences for something using would. So, the rule is with words such as love, hate, prefer, like, glad, etc., would should be used. Now, when you talk about uncertain things, particularly when you are giving your opinion on uncertain things, then you should use would over will. Example, let's suppose your friend is asking, how old do you think this man is? You should be saying, I would say he's about 40 rather than I will say he's about 40. Similarly, you could say, I think it would take about 40 minutes. So, if someone is asking you what is the distance between point A and point B, what is the difference between what's the distance between Velachery and Adayar, or how long does it take to travel from Velachery to Adayar? Then you could say, I think it would take about 20 minutes, because there you're giving your opinion on something that you're not very sure about, and therefore you say I think. And because you use the expression I think, it's better you use would over will. And because you use the expression I think, which means you're giving your opinion on something uncertain, it's better you use would over will. Now, expressing refusal, expressing your refusal to do something. Example sentences are, Reva wouldn't go to the doctor even though she was in pain. It's something that has happened in the past. Reva was in pain in the past. Therefore, here it's better that you use wouldn't over will. So, rather than saying Reva will not go to the doctor even though she was in pain, it's better you use Reva wouldn't go to the doctor even though she was in pain. Similarly, my bike would not start today. Rather than saying my bike will not start today, which means, it sounds like you're having some vision about your bike not starting, when you get out of your bed in the morning. So, unless, the situation is something out of ordinary like that, you wouldn't say something like my bike will not start today. It's better you phrase it this way, my bike would not start today. Now, would with the word wish. So, when you start a sentence with something like I wish, then try using would instead of will. I wish she would leave me. Rather than saying I wish she will leave me, it's better you say I wish she would leave me. Another example is I wish you would be quiet for a minute. And finally, you use would when you want to express the result of an action. That is, results and intentions are expressed with so that, in order, etc. So, an example sentence is given here. He burned all the letters so that his mother would never read them. It doesn't sound very right when you say he burned all the letters so that his mother will never read them. Okay. Here, because you're talking about results and intentions that are expressed with so that, and you're talking about the result of an action, or when you're trying to express the result of an action, then you should use would over will. So the situations I've discussed so far covers almost all the uses of will and would. Creating examples which are similar to the given situations would be a great way of improving your writing and speaking. So, with this, we come to the end of the session. I hope you enjoyed this class. I will meet you with a different topic on a different day. Until then, stay safe, take care, bye.